done with another one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what is up? What is happening? What is happening? What's happening? All right, let me get the screen share set up. Okay. Share screen. Window. Why is that other window open? That's not supposed to be open. Get out of here. Okay. That's the one we want open. Okay. Give me a second, guys. I'm still trying to figure this shit out. I used to have it figured out, and I don't know what happened. Okay, that's just stupid. Now it's just getting stupid. Why does it keep asking me for a slideshow? I don't want to do a slideshow. Cancel that. Okay. What are we doing? Okay, exit full screen. There we go. And there we go. That's why did that take so long? Why was that so damn hard? All right, there we go. Now we're working. What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. And let's get into it, man. I know I'm a couple minutes late, but shit, I'm trying. So, the infamous Trump Jesus meme. How about it? Now, what you guys, well, I'm pretty sure most of you figured it out that Trump's sending some kind of signal. He's sending some kind of message, and the message is highly coded. And most people, it kind of just goes over their heads. They don't know what that signal is. Well, I know what it is, and I know exactly what it is, and it's exactly what I've been telling you guys this whole time. Now, here's the thing. I'm not always right about what Trump's trying to do and what the future moves are because I'm some kind of super genius or anything. The only difference between me and the people who can't figure it out as quickly as I can is one thing and one thing only. I've been watching and following Trump from day one. And I also went back in the archives and looked at old statements that Trump made from the past and kind of got a feel for the direction that he was gonna go in once he was able to attain the presidency. Now, so when I say I can figure this shit out more than most people, it's not to throw a jab at their level of intelligence or anything. It's just the game that Trump's playing, they don't know the rules to, right? That's what it is. It's kind of like, it's like everyday life in America, in this economy that's so rigged against the working man, right? There's good people, smart people out there, work hard, do everything right, but in the end, they still end up not attaining the goals that they set out to attain. And that's not because they're stupid or anything. It's just that they're playing a game that they don't really know the rules to. And this game that Trump is playing with the politics, one of the rules, see, some people think that the rules are, one of the rules is that it is, how can I put this? How can I put this? They think that deception is one of the rules of the game. So everything they say and do is a deception, right? But that's not exactly it. The rule actually is deception is necessary only in certain situations under certain circumstances. So not everything is a deception. Some things are out in the open. Other things have to be hidden. Other things have to be, other things have to be revealed, but not revealed openly. Just like what that Q post said, right? The truth will soon be revealed to the public, but not openly accepted, not openly accepted. And a lot of conservatives have been turning against Trump lately because of the Iran thing. And, now they're all mad at him about the Jesus thing. And, but when you think about Israel, Iran, Trump, and now he's posting an image of himself as Jesus, there's more to it than just him being a goofball. Believe you me, the man is far from a goofball. Okay? And when he does goofy shit like this, on the surface, it looks like goofiness. It absolutely does. And I can't blame the people who think it is. But underneath all the goofballism, there's a message being sent. And the message that Trump is sending with this meme, it's gonna knock your socks off. For some of you, it probably won't surprise you, but for most of you guys, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, how did I miss that?" And there's a hint right there in the background on the thumbnail. If you guys haven't been paying attention, look at the thumbnail. Look very closely at the thumbnail. Trump is not only portraying himself as Jesus, but he's portraying himself as Jesus doing something. And that's the part you need to pay attention to. So, excuse me. So, before we get started, let me just go ahead and run through these promos really quick so we can really get this show on the road and you guys can, we can get down to business because I know that's what you've been waiting for. Now, the Iran thing, the war with Iran about removing the Israeli spy networks and everything, I did that on the last stream. So I already pointed out to you guys that Trump is moving against Israel, but he's doing it covertly, right? Now, the hidden message in this Jesus meme has a lot to do with that. It actually ties directly into that. Okay, so here we go. So if you guys are not following me on Rumble, please make sure you get over to Rumble and follow me over on Rumble because that's where you'll find all the content that's not available on YouTube. YouTube censors a lot and they don't like me in particular. So make sure you guys go follow me over on Rumble because that's where I'll be in case they zap me on YouTube. And there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of information on the Rumble page. Excuse me. There's a lot of information on the Rumble page that you guys cannot access from YouTube because there's streams that were done on channels that were removed, other streams that I removed from YouTube myself so I wouldn't lose this channel, and so on. So a lot of my archive stuff is there. And if you want to go back even further to the beginnings of Citizen Man, you can go to my Facebook page and go to videos and you can watch all my old streams when I used to stream on Facebook before they started shadow banning your boy. Also, make sure you guys follow me on the Citizen Man backup channel. We're doing some work over there. Last but not least, if you guys would like to support the show, please feel free to do so via Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo by using the tag scrolling across the screen in the banner below, the links that are pinned to the top of the YouTube chat in the black box where it says Citizen Man TV in yellow. Just click on the yellow, the box opens up, and all the links are there. All right, and shout out to everybody that's here, man. I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. We got 28 watching on YouTube and 22 likes. Hit that like button. I'm seeing 10 on Rumble so far. Let's see how high these numbers go. Just hit that like button, hit the share button, all that good shit. All right? All of that good shit. All right, so the Talmud is your key to decode this message that Trump is sending. Hey, listen, Kelly, you don't have to announce that. Just, you know what I'm saying? You don't, listen, donations are not required. That's why they're called donations. And I don't charge an entry fee. That's why my content isn't behind a paywall. It's absolutely free. I just ask for donations because the people who are able to donate take it upon themselves to fund this operation because, well, that's what it requires. And that helps to keep the show going. That buys me time away from work so I can put in the research, spend the hours up late at night doing the show so I can sleep in the next morning, work a half a day because I made half the day's pay on YouTube. So, you know what I'm saying? That's how I balance it. So it's not a requirement, but it is very much appreciated and it's always being put to good use. Okay? So if you can't donate, don't feel bad about it. If you don't want to donate, don't feel bad about it. And if you do want to donate, I strongly encourage you to. All right? So let's go. The Trump Jesus meme. So tonight's topic is the hidden message in the infamous Trump Jesus meme. So let's take a look at what's happening. So President Donald Trump posted a now deleted social media post depicting himself as Jesus, saying he thought the image was of him as a doctor. And he refused to apologize to Pope Leo XIV on Monday after criticizing the pontiff for his opposition to the war in Iran. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran. Pope Leo would not be happy with the end result, Trump said, adding, I think he's very weak on crime and other things, so I'm not going to apologize. So Trump put out the post and he took it down. Now, you guys remember that post that I showed you on the last show that I actually put on my community tab? Where is it? There it is. And what did I tell you? People were saying it's a fake post because it was put out on April 1st. But what did I tell you? I told you Trump put it up and he took it down. That's what he does. He's done that before. And he did it with this post and he did it with the Jesus meme. So what does that tell you? I was right again. Because, like I said, I know the rules to the game. I know how Trump is playing it. because I know who the enemies are and I know what his agenda is. So I don't have to sit here and, pretend to be some deep thinker, but play the surface just to hate on Trump. But we see a lot of that. So Trump says, after realizing what a corrupt government they really have, I am immediately cutting off all military aid to Israel. Netanyahu is desperately trying to drag the United States of America into Iraq 2.0, just how he did back then with the same phony reason of weapons of mass destruction. Now, what are the nuclear weapons that they don't want Iran to have? Weapons of mass destruction, right? Aha. It's getting good, isn't it? We will not be fooled again. Israel will have to pay back every single penny the United States has sent them over the past 10 years, or else they will be in big trouble. America first, President Donald Trump. Then he took the post down. And the reason why he took the post down is because he wanted people to think it was a fake post. So he put the word out, letting the patriots know where he really stands, like I've been telling you guys. Then he took it down to not upset the controllers, because if they get upset with him, they're going to start killing us. That's the whole point, is to defeat them without giving them an excuse or an opportunity to start killing us. So how do you defeat them? You disrupt their spy networks, you disrupt their military capabilities, and you do it all under the guise of pretending to be their friend. You rock them to sleep. All right. And right, Kelly. She says, I'm guilty. Thought Trump was compromised until I heard your double agent take. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. If Trump goes against Israel openly and blatantly, while they still have their sleeper cells active in the United States, we're all in trouble. And if American citizens start dying in mass casualty events, the president gets blamed for it. President Trump posts image portraying himself as Jesus Christ. Okay, so this is the meme that everybody's up in arms about, but I want you guys to take a good look at this picture and analyze it. You see what's in the sky? Fallen soldiers going up to heaven. That little three-pointed crown up there, that's some sort of symbolism, but I haven't gotten that far yet. But you see the fighter jets in the background, and Trump is doing what? In this image of him portraying himself as Jesus, he's being a healer, right? Keep that in mind. And again, this was another one he put up and he took down. He did offer a response to it. And his response was, Q says, did you post the picture of yourself depicted as Christ? And Trump says, question, not Q. I'm sorry. The question from a reporter. That's what this was. Let me correct myself. Trump says, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better. And I do make people better and make people a lot better. I did post it and I thought it was me as a doctor and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So Trump mentions the Red Cross and he mentions himself being portrayed as a doctor or a healer, right? Keep that in mind. That's very important. You keep that in mind. That's one of the clues. Because when we go to the Talmud, it's all going to come together. But check this out. Around the same time, Trump is posting memes of himself as Jesus, and he put up that post against Israel, talking, speaking out against Israel. Him and Iran, his administration and Iran were making a deal, and apparently a deal has been made. Eric Doherty tweeted this, says Iran has agreed to no nuclear weapons, and they will hand over the nuclear dust per President Trump. This is a monumental win. So essentially, the war is coming to an end. Very important is that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because the attack we made with the B-2 bombers, or because of the attack we made with the B-2 bombers. So we have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very positively. So here's the reason why it's such a big deal for Iran not to have nukes at the current moment. They have nukes, and it's going to be revealed soon enough. But at the current moment, their nuclear capabilities are being suppressed because of the Israeli infiltration. It's the Israeli Mossad that are responsible for the vast majority of terrorist attacks around the world that are being blamed by Iran. When the Trump administration officials refer to Iran as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, they're actually referring to the Israeli spy network within Iran. And if the Iranian government got their hands on nuclear capable weapons, those weapons essentially would fall into the hands of these Mossad agent infiltrators who are posing as Iranian government officials. Remember, from the last show, the guy that was in charge of Iran's anti-espionage agency was himself a spy. So he's the guy that says, oh, let him in. He's not a spy. Let him in. He's not a spy. Don't let him in. He's a spy. So if the guy that's supposed to be the gatekeeper keeping the spies out is himself a spy, what do you think's going to happen? He's going to let all the freaking spies in. And that's what's happened to Iran. And this is why Iran not having a nuclear weapon is so crucial at this moment. But that's going to change. That's going to change. Now, with the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, it's cutting off the oil supply and other supplies of goods coming from Asia and the Middle East into Europe. So Iran, by Trump not stopping them from blockading the Strait of Hormuz, has essentially been able to lay siege to Europe. And Israel, being one of the strongholds of the Rothschild banking system, Europe, with the city of London, is also one of their strongholds. So how do you take down the Israeli Zionist network that controls the world's banking system? Well, you have to lay siege to the lands and territories that they control. You have to disrupt and destroy the economies that they feed off of, like the European Union. And this is exactly what's been happening. And now with the Strait of Hormuz being cut off for so long, they're in dire straits. And now that that's happening, guess what? Trump's flipping the script on them. The United States plans to withdraw more than 100,000 troops from Europe and halt annual defense spending that could reach trillions of dollars. The United States has announced a significant military and financial shift by deciding to withdraw more than 100,000 troops stationed in Europe. Along with this troop reduction, the United States will stop annual defense spending that could potentially reach trillions of dollars. This represents a major change in the U.S. military and financial policy. You see that? So as Iran lays siege to Europe, Trump's cutting off military funding to Europe. And who controls Europe? The small hats. This move marks a significant shift in the U.S. defense strategy and budget allocation, affecting both the American military presence in Europe and defense spending commitments. Sorry, that was a period there. The United States of America will withdraw over 100,000 U.S. troops from Europe and halt its annual defense spending of trillions of dollars. So there you go. There you go. All right, let's move along. Now, get this. Doc, as in Doc Holliday, says, who could have guessed that Lord Rothschild was running the Red Cross in Britain? You see? Remember I told you about the Iran, the Strait of Hormuz situation, laying siege to Europe in order to disrupt the financial system of the Zionists? Well, guess what? Lord Rothschild is the one in charge of the Red Cross in Britain. And didn't Trump mention something about the Red Cross with that Jesus meme? So now we got Europe tied into it. That's another key. Keep that in mind. There's a mention of the Red Cross in conjunction with Rothschild. Okay? Like, what are the actual odds of that? No way. I'm so surprised. And just 7 short years later, his son Lionel Walter Rothschild received the Balfour Declaration from Britain that it was time to steal the land of Palestine and prep it to become known as Israel, aka effing Rothschildville. I don't know if you guys can read this, but this is the actual excerpt from whatever document that confirms Lord Rothschild as the president of the Red Cross, as the head of the Red Cross. And it says, Great Britain, Lord Rothschild, as president of the British Red Cross Council, presented to Queen Alexandra, the president of the British Red Cross, presented to Queen Alexandra, the president of the British Red Cross, the condolences addressed to her by the International Red Cross Committee on the death of King Edward the 12th, and for which the Queen expressed her gratitude. The British Red Cross is making rapid progress, many new chapters having lately been organized. At the time of the late King's funeral, the St. John's Ambulance Association of the British Red Cross established 35 relief stations with a personnel of 1,163 physicians, stretcher bearers, and nurses. This army of first aid rendered assistance in 6,014 cases. So I think they were talking about during the pandemic. I think this is like a news article clipping or something from the pandemic. But what's to be noted here is the British Red Cross. So that's the European Union Red Cross, which was suspected of child trafficking or human trafficking around the world. And the Lord Rothschild being the president of the Red Cross, the British Red Cross Council. And then you hold that up against Trump comparing himself to Jesus in the meme, healing the sick, and mentioning something about the Red Cross in his response to the backlash from the Jesus meme. And there's another piece to the puzzle, but it's still not together yet. You're probably still confused. So let's continue. So Trump depicting himself as Jesus. So let's just jump right to it, and then we'll come back to all this so we can tie it all together. Let me see. So Trump shocked Netanyahu with a post declaring Lebanon strikes prohibited, right? And in this post right here by Donald Trump, I showed this on the last show when I was showing all the quotes by Donald Trump during this situation. And here it says, no more attacks will be made by Israel. That was when Trump was talking about how I think Iran bombed something in Israel and Israel responded by bombing Qatar, right? Which to me sounded like Israel bombed themselves, blamed Iran, and then went and attacked Qatar. But in this post, Trump said there will be no more attacks by Israel. And now, next thing you know, Trump is declaring Israel's strikes on Lebanon prohibited. But we'll get back to that. I got this whole article, so we'll break it all down. But now let's go back to the thumbnail for a second. Trump depicting himself as Jesus. What's Jesus doing in the image? Healing the sick, right? And what is the hint to decode the message here? The Talmud. But what does the Talmud say about Jesus? Doesn't the Talmud speak poorly about Jesus as if Jesus is an enemy of them, of the Jews, right? Weren't they the ones that executed Jesus on the cross? So Trump depicting himself as Jesus in a meme is essentially, the message is this, and I'll just keep it short. The message is he's revealing himself to be an enemy of this group of people, these Zionists, not their friend. So on the surface, everything appears as if Trump's their friend, right? But then you look at the hidden messages, and the message sends Right, Barnes. And the message that Trump is sending is, I'm not on their side. And this is what I've been telling you guys for the longest. The whole back and forth with Iran, that shit's staged. That's why they're doing all that talking publicly, all that back and forth banter. It's fake beef. That's what it is. We see that shit on YouTube all the time. It's fake beef. So this article right here by Dr. Eitan Bar discusses what the Talmud says about Jesus specifically. Jesus in the Talmud, the Talmudic Orthodox rabbis' horrific legends about Christ, right? By the 3rd century AD, Talmudic Orthodox rabbis attempted to further separate Jesus's disciples from Talmudic Judaism by introducing a controversial legend into the Talmudic oral law. They hoped that this legend would create discomfort among Jesus's followers and ultimately lead to their expulsion from the Jewish community. This legend, found in the Talmud's tractate Sanhedrin 107b, claims that Jesus practiced witchcraft and lured the Israelites away from the God of Israel towards idolatry. According to the story, Jesus was a student of Rabbi Joshua ben Parhia, with whom he had a disagreement. In retaliation, Jesus allegedly studied witchcraft in Egypt with the intention of corrupting the people of Israel. Now, this is a bullshit story. Absolute bullshit story. So even way back then in the 3rd century, what was it? The 3rd century BC? Whatever the fuck it was. Let me see. Let me go back up to the top. Matter of fact, there we go. Yeah, the 3rd century AD. So even back in the 3rd century AD, these Talmudic rabbis were a bunch of lying sacks of shit, making up shit. There we go. However, this legend, authored by rabbis centuries after Jesus' crucifixion, lacks any foundation outside the Talmud and displays a glaring chronological inconsistency. Rabbi Joshua ben Parahia lived and taught in the 2nd century BC, long before Jesus' birth. Professor Avigdor Shanan comments on this discrepancy, noting the implausibility of Jesus being Joshua ben Parahia's disciple due to the vast difference in their timelines. During Joshua ben Parhia's escape to Egypt, he was joined by one of his disciples, Jesus. Yes, indeed, the father of Christianity, although it is chronologically impossible. Right. They were born centuries apart, but this is the story that the rabbis made up to try to demonize Jesus. That's how much they hate. Even after they crucified him, and according to the Bible, he rose from the dead again, they still hated him. You know what this makes me think of? You know what this reminds me of? How these these rabbis 300 years after Jesus's crucifixion were still making up stories about him to demonize him. It kind of reminds me of these current modern day drill rappers that rap about the dead and diss the dead in their rap songs. That's what, and you know what? It's funny that it's this exact same group of people who have been controlling the hip hop industry for decades. And just like they were dissing the dead when it comes to Jesus back in the 3rd century AD, they're using the same playbook to create beef between these rappers and having them dissing each other's dead comrades. That's crazy that they've been using the same playbook for centuries, and we're just now figuring it out. But remember, Trump depicted himself as Jesus, healing, right? Check this out. Another account involving Jewish believers in Jesus appears in tractate of Avodah Zarah 17, which details a conversation between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva about a Jesus follower named Jacob Sakanya, known for his ability to heal in Jesus' name. Jacob, a Jewish believer in Jesus, is later mentioned in a story where Rabbi Ishmael's nephew is bitten by a snake. Though Jacob offers to heal the nephew using Jesus' name, Rabbi Ishmael, aware of the miraculous healing powers ascribed to Jesus' disciples, declines the offer, allowing his nephew to die. So Trump depicting himself as Jesus in the meme is not only Trump declaring himself an enemy of this synagogue of Satan, but in that depiction, he's doing the act of healing, the very act that Rabbi Ishmael refused for his nephew, allowing his nephew to die. So he would rather let his nephew die than have him healed in Jesus' name, because that's how much we hate Jesus. So Trump depicting himself as Jesus is one thing, but when he depicts himself as Jesus healing the sick, that's two elements within that one meme that, based on the Talmudic text, depicts Trump as an enemy of the synagogue of Satan. See how that works? You see how that comes together? This is why I told you, pay attention to the healing part, because that also ties into the Talmud. How you like that one? I'm not making this shit up. It's right here in front of you. You can go look it up in the Talmud for yourself. I just pulled an article that happened to that already had these verses separated, so it made it easy, right? In the Talmud's tractate Gittin 56b through 57a, another account referencing Jesus describes him enduring eternal punishment in hell, submerged in boiling excrement. Yes, poop. This punishment is presented as retribution for his alleged misdeeds and for supposedly leading the people of Israel away from God and towards idolatry. Ain't that something? And this is the Talmudic reference of Jesus that most people are familiar with. The passage about him boiling in shit in hell. These intriguing legends underscore the contentious relationship between Jewish believers in Jesus and mainstream Jewish leaders. All right. So there it is, proof in the Talmud that the small hats hate Jesus. So when Trump depicts himself, and the small hats in their story hated Jesus so much that one rabbi didn't even want Jesus to heal his nephew. So Trump in the meme depicting himself as Jesus is essentially declaring himself an enemy of these small hats. And depicting himself as Jesus healing someone is basically doubling down on that declaration of enmity. You see what I'm saying? Because he could have depicted himself as Jesus ascending. He could have depicted himself as Jesus on the cross. He could have depicted himself as Jesus just standing there posing for a picture. He could have depicted himself as, whatever, Jesus walking on water or whatever he could have. But he chose healing because that ties directly to the Talmudic stories that disparage Jesus. And then when he mentions the Red Cross, the Red Cross is tied to Lord Rothschild. Lord Rothschild, the Rothschilds come out of Israel. They're Zionist small hats. Tendy Town says, was my comment removed? Tendy Town, if it said anything weird or anything that YouTube might find offensive or whatever, YouTube would actually block the comment. So if it didn't show up, That's probably because you said something YouTube didn't like. So either rephrase or use symbols and numbers to represent the letters to kind of code what you're saying. So that way you can say it without being censored. Yes, YouTube censors the comments. Yes, they do. So is it making sense to you guys? Is it making sense to you? So that's the hidden message in the Trump Jesus meme. The hidden message is, I am not a friend of the synagogue of Satan. Regardless of what you may have been seeing on the surface, read between the lines, depict the image, and you notice it's an anti-Zionist meme. And then he put it up and took it down, just like that anti-Zionist post that was put up on April 1st and taken down. Same shit, same play. He's telling us what it is. He's declaring himself an enemy of theirs. And around the same time he puts out the meme, Trump shocked Netanyahu with post declaring Lebanon strikes prohibited. Now, when we say Netanyahu, it's already been confirmed that Netanyahu, well, not officially confirmed, but unofficially confirmed by the reaction of Netanyahu's son, that Netanyahu is dead. And this person right here is not the real Benjamin Netanyahu. It's either a body double or a skin mask actor. And by now we should know, especially after that Jim Carrey stunt at the Grammys or whatever award ceremony it was, we should know that these rubber masks actually look very realistic. Okay? But when we say Netanyahu, we don't mean the actual Benjamin Netanyahu, but rather the character Benjamin Netanyahu in the movie, as it has not been officially declared that Netanyahu has died, but his son did the 7-day mourning thing after the rumor of him dying, which seems to indicate that he actually is dead. But now Trump is saying that Israel's strikes on Lebanon are prohibited. So let's go take a look at what he said. What the hell? Come on. Israel asked the White House for clarification about President Trump's post that Israel was prohibited from conducting airstrikes in Lebanon. A U.S. source and another source familiar tell Axios. Why it matters. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his advisors were shocked by Trump's post, which contradicted the text of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon that the State Department published on Thursday. The implication of Trump's post, that he was issuing an order that Israel had no choice but to obey, would have been unthinkable under other U.S. administrations. And the reason why that would have been unthinkable under other U.S. administrations is because other U.S. administrations were blackmailed by Israel. They were under the control of Israel, and they were in league with Israel. Donald Trump is not. And for everybody on YouTube that was saying Donald Trump is owned by Israel, well, by Donald Trump's own words, it doesn't seem like he's owned by Israel. It might appear so on the surface, but I've known all along that that wasn't the case, because what's on the surface is never the case. So if it looks that way on the surface, chances are it's the opposite beneath the surface. And that was the premise by which I've been analyzing this entire situation. And guess what? Now I've been proven to be right. The implication of Trump's post that he was, okay. There we go. Netanyahu was personally stunned and alarmed when he learned of the post, the sources said. Catch up quickly. Trump announced on Thursday that Israel and Lebanon had agreed to a 10-day ceasefire. The U.S. had been pressing for such a truce for several days while working in parallel on a peace deal with Iran. According to the agreement, Israel reserves the right to take military action even during the ceasefire in self-defense at any time against planned, imminent, or ongoing attacks. And since there were no planned, imminent, or ongoing attacks, Trump said Israel attacking Lebanon was prohibited based on the agreement. Israel committed not to take offensive military operations against Lebanese targets, including civilian, military, and other state targets. The ceasefire is incredibly politically sensitive for Netanyahu. For Netanyahu and his government. Let me read that over. The ceasefire is incredibly politically sensitive for Netanyahu, and his government has emphasized that it is not constrained from striking Hezbollah if necessary. Well, apparently, according to Trump, they are. So let's see what happens. And if they do strike Lebanon again, after Trump said they're not allowed to, let's see what Trump does about it. Because what it sounds like to me is Trump has openly declared himself an enemy of these Zionists. He's now starting to finally put his foot down publicly with these Zionists, which indicates to me that perhaps whatever plans they had here in America to commit mass casualty events to force the Trump administration into capitulation, those plans have been thwarted because now Trump's got balls enough to go public with his opposition to what Israel has been doing. And it's funny that all this comes right after the news of Larry Silverstein buying a skyscraper in LA came to light. So it sounds to me like whatever they were planning with Larry Silverstein, probably another 9/11 style attack in LA on Silverstein's building again, because that information was leaked to the public. Now they can't move forward with it. And now that they can't move forward with the big one, Trump can now start publicly showing his hand. So he doesn't have to pretend to be Israel's friend anymore. Now he can openly, publicly announce the deal with Iran. Now he can tell Israel, go fuck yourself. Now he can, now he can tell Israel, if you touch the Lebanese, something going to happen to you. And we'll see what happens. On Friday, Trump used starkly different language. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the U.S. Enough is enough. In an interview with Axios, Trump reiterated that he wants Israeli strikes on Lebanon to end. And it was the same thing he was saying about Gaza. Israel has to stop. They can't continue to blow buildings up. I am not going to allow it, he said. Behind the scenes, Netanyahu and his team found out about Trump's Lebanon comments in the media and were caught off guard. Aides, including Israeli ambassador to Washington, Yashel Leiter, began scrambling to understand whether the U.S. had changed course. Israeli officials asked the White House for clarification and stressed that Trump's comment contradicted the agreement. After Axios asked the White House for a comment, a U.S. official clarified Trump's remarks. The president's ceasefire agreement between Lebanon and Israel clearly states that Israel will not carry out any offensive military operations against Lebanese targets, but preserves its right to self-defense against planned, imminent, or ongoing attacks, the U.S. official said. What to watch? On Friday evening, shortly before Trump's interview with Axios, an Israeli drone conducted a strike in southern Lebanon. And this is why Trump is saying the attack is prohibited. Because they're committing these offensive attacks against Lebanon and claiming falsely that it's self-defense. These people are stone cold liars. All they do is lie. I just showed you the article outlining the scriptures in the Talmud that disparaged Jesus, and one of them was a fake made-up story by a lion-ass rabbi back in 300 AD. Now, Aram left a very interesting comment. So now we have to go back to the meme so you guys can see what Aram is talking about. Aram says, I always thought the Trump Jesus pic looked more like the magician from the tarot deck. Jesus wears all white, not red and white. Very true. Now, if you look up, and Jesus is a spiritual figure, right? But if you look up the spiritual significance or the spiritual meaning of the color red, red actually signifies action. Not just action, but aggressive action. This is why whenever Trump announces plans for a new task force or expanded military operations or anything like that, look at the color tie that he's wearing. It's a red tie. He wears the red tie. If you go look at his presidential portrait from his first term, he's sitting on the edge of his seat wearing a red tie. Edge of your seat means you're preparing to get up. Red tie means aggressive action. So him sitting on the edge of his seat wearing a red tie actually signifies him preparing to get up and take aggressive action. Kelly also raised something interesting. Red and white, like the poor Knights of the Templars before corruption set in, right? And I think it was last year or the year before, the Templars were finally let back into the Vatican after 700 years of being banished based on false accusations. So when Trump depicts himself as Jesus, but he's wearing red, the depiction of Jesus represents him being an enemy of the Zionists. Jesus doing the healing basically doubles down on that notion. And him having the red garment on signifies not only am I an enemy of the people who hate Jesus, but I'm preparing to take action against this enemy. And cutting off military funding to Europe and withdrawing the troops from Europe after Iran put Europe under siege for weeks with the Strait of Hormuz shut down. Well, it seems like Trump is doing exactly that. Because remember, we have the biggest, most powerful Navy in the entire world. So how the hell was Iran able to hold down and shut down the Strait of Hormuz and we did nothing about it? Because we were allowing it. And Trump's reference to the Red Cross is a signal that his enmity is to the Rothschilds. And his enmity to the Rothschilds signifies an international financial reset, the quantum financial system, the ditching of the fiat currency, the switching to a gold-backed currency. You know, everything that Nasara and Jassara is supposed to do. So while everybody is spinning their wheels looking at, again, what's on the surface, Trump depicting himself as Jesus. Oh, how arrogant. Oh, he's declaring himself God. Oh, how big-headed of him. Oh, how narcissistic. They're all just looking at the surface. But if they pay attention to what's said about Jesus in the Talmud, they'll know that all this anti-Iran shit that's been going on, well, it seems like Trump's been working against Israel because he's declaring himself an enemy of Israel, the state of Israel, the fake Jews, the synagogue of Satan. Remember, even the Bible mentions these people. They say they are Jews, but they are not. They are the synagogue of Satan. And this is why it's so touchy-feely a lot of times when we talk about this subject and we use the J word too much, because it's not all of them. It's the Zionist elites that want to prop up and maintain international world dominance through the state of Israel. But that is not the Israel of the Bible, but they call themselves Israel in order to gain the support of Christians in the Western world. Because they know the Christians in the Christian Bible believe in Israel, and Israel being God's chosen people. So, hey, let's create a country imposed as God's chosen people and do it in the land that the Bible says it was done in. Knowing that most Christians that read the Bible don't realize that when the Bible mentions Israel, they're not talking about a specific group of people or a specific nation, but rather the people who believe in God. God's people. The church, not the institutions, the 501c3 organizations that we call church today. When the Bible says the church, it's referring to believers as a whole. Just like when the Bible refers to Israel, it's referring to believers as a whole. So you guys understand what I'm saying, right? You guys get what I'm saying, right? You guys see what I'm talking about now, right? The Talmud disparages Jesus where a rabbi let his own nephew die, then let the other guy heal his nephew in the name of Jesus. Let Jesus, his disciple, heal his nephew in the name of Jesus, because that's how much they hated Jesus. They also mentioned Jesus going to hell for doing evil, and Jesus doing witchcraft and shit, because they hate Jesus. So Trump, again, depicting himself as Jesus, is a declaration that I am your enemy. I am not your friend. So publicly, he'll beef with Iran, run these joint operations with Israel, make it look like he's friends with Israel and he's working in Israel's favor. Meanwhile, the targets in Iran that are being hit are Israeli Mossad agents. Then he lets Iran lay siege to the Strait of Hormuz and dares Europe to take action, knowing that they can't because they don't have any fuel, because all their fuel ships are held up in the Strait of Hormuz. And then he puts out the meme of him as Jesus, mentioning the Red Cross, which is tied to the Rothschilds. So in this one image, he's letting everybody know where he really stands, and where he really stands, as depicted in this image, is exactly what I've been telling you guys this whole time. He is not a friend of Israel. He's only posing as a friend of Israel, but he's working to undermine them. Significantly reduced the military aid, and the military aid that they were sending to Israel was old, outdated equipment. Meanwhile, selling the updated shit to the Saudis and the Turks, who are not friends of Israel. It's like the old saying goes, the best way to get your opposition under control or control your opposition is to lead it. And this is part of the reason why Trump pretends to be a friend of Israel, because they are his opposition and he's going to lead them. Remember, these same Zionists, aren't they the ones that control the mainstream media? The same mainstream media that's been disparaging Trump for the last 10 years, 11 years. So why would he side with Israel? You see what I'm saying? But people don't get it, because when it comes to Trump, anything they can grasp onto to disparage him about, even if they got to scrape the surface and not go any deeper, they'll do that, because they come into the conversation with a confirmation, with a biased opinion of Trump, that Trump bad, so everything Trump do must be bad. Oh, look, Trump siding with Israel, Trump bad, like I told you. But then they'll teach you all this other shit and how to read in between the lines and how to dig deeper. But when it comes to Trump, nope, we don't do that. They'll tell you how the fake news lies, and the fake news lies, and they don't tell you anything true, and all they do is deceive and pump fear and blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to Trump, they're right, though. It's almost like the globe earth, flat earth debate, where the globe earthers will tell you, I don't trust the government. The government lies about everything. Oh, but when it comes to the shape of the earth, they're telling the truth, though. You see, it's the same. It's literally the same inconsistency. And this is why Q said in the beginning, be careful who you follow, be careful who you listen to, because they're going to deceive you. They're going to give you all this truth, and they're going to tell you all this cool shit to gain your trust. And then when it's time to turn on the bullshit, you'll buy it, because they've been trustworthy this far. There's no reason to not trust them, except for one glaring fact, which is when it comes to Trump and they try to disparage him, they never go any deeper than the surface, because they know once they go deeper beneath the surface, the truth will reveal itself. So they dare not do it. You watch. Go look at the Trump hater channels, right? The channels that literally hate Trump and have hated Trump this whole time for years. And listen to what they say about this image. And I guarantee you, everything they say is going to be surface level. Oh, he's blaspheming. Oh, he's arrogant. He's declaring himself to be God. He's painting himself out to be God. He's narcissistic. That's what they're going to say. But they'll never tell you him depicting himself as Jesus, if you decode it with the Talmud, amounts to him declaring himself an enemy of these people. See, they can't do that, because that destroys their whole narrative of these small hats are controlling Trump. The two can't exist in the same world. So they have to ignore those facts. They have to ignore the deeper meaning in the image, so they can continue to uphold their biased opinion. That's intellectual dishonesty at best. That's what that is. And you can't trust information coming from an individual who has demonstrated intellectual dishonesty. They could be dishonest with everything else, but when it comes to analytics, presenting the facts, you can't trust them. They have to be 100% accurate and consistent. And what have I been doing with Trump? Have I not been damn near 99% accurate? Have I not been consistent? When have I ever scraped the surface to make my point? I never do that. I show you what's on the surface. I show you what everybody else is saying. Then I go beneath the surface and I show you what's really there. And what's really there contradicts what everybody else is saying. Now you got to look at all these big YouTubers that you've loved and trusted for so long and scratch your head and wonder whose side they're on, because as supposed deep thinkers, they're really floating on the surface when it comes to Trump, and they won't go any deeper. Pay attention to that shit, because that inconsistency speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. That means they're jumping through hoops and doing mental gymnastics and making themselves inconsistent just to prove the point that Trump bad. If you have to do that, if you have to engage in intellectual dishonesty just to claim that somebody's bad, that means that somebody is not bad. That means what you're saying is not accurate. It's not correct. It's like doing fuzzy math to get the solution or get the result that you want, regardless of what actual math says the result is. That's like the teacher, you're in second grade, third grade, and you're doing basic simple math, addition and subtraction, right? And the teacher gives you an equation, and the equation is 5 minus 2 equals, and you write 8 or you write 7. Mathematically, that's incorrect, right? 5 minus 2 equals 3, not 7, right? So instead of admitting that your answer of 7 to that equation is incorrect, what you do is you just draw a vertical stroke right through the minus sign and you turn it into a plus sign. Now your equation is correct. So instead of changing the incorrect result that you got because you did the math wrong, you just changed the math to make your result correct. That's not how you do math. But that's what these people do when they scrape the surface to prove Trump bad, but they're willing to dig deeper behind the scenes and beneath the surface with everything else. That's essentially what they're doing. Instead of erasing that 7 and admitting that they're wrong, they just change the minus sign to a plus sign to make themselves right. That is intellectual dishonesty. Because 5 plus 2 was not the equation that you were tasked with solving. But again, instead of saying, you know what, maybe I was wrong. 5 minus 2 is 3, not 7. And changing the 7 to a 3, you change the minus sign to a plus sign. So instead of changing your answer, you change the math equation to make your incorrect answer now correct. Because you see, if these people dared to look beneath the surface, they would have to admit to themselves and their audiences that, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong about Trump. I've been telling y'all Israel owned Trump this whole time, and Trump's been sticking it to him this whole time because their domestic terror sleeper cell networks are no longer as effective as they once were in terms of holding the country hostage. And Trump is now basically laying the smack down on Israel. And Trump is removing their spy networks and allowing within Iran and allowing Iran to lay siege to Europe, which is one of their main strongholds. Europe is their second biggest stronghold aside from America. And that's what you got to look out for. You got to look out for these so-called analysts doing fuzzy math. And Trump has been known to send hidden messages and coded signals like this throughout his entire presidency. And if you guys have been following me since his first term, you've seen a lot of that, especially with the Q thing. I've shown you guys a lot of that. So this type of messaging is nothing new. That's why the moment I saw it and I saw everybody reacting to what's on the surface, I said, you know what? Let me examine this image a little deeper. And I started looking at it and I got to thinking, and I was like, Trump, Jesus, Trump's working against Israel. Israel is the small hats. The small hats hate Jesus. So Trump depicting himself as Jesus is Trump declaring himself an enemy of the small hats. I hadn't even taken into consideration the healing part. I just came to that conclusion based off of what the Talmud says about Jesus. Then I start reading a bunch of articles, and I pull that article by Dr. Eitan Bar. I pull this article, I get to reading it, come to find out that there's a story to disparage Jesus about a rabbi who didn't want Jesus to heal his nephew and let his nephew die. And then I go back to the picture and I'm like, oh shit, Trump is not only depicting himself as Jesus, a sworn enemy of the Jews, the Talmudic Jews, but he's also depicting himself healing, which is what the rabbi in the story refused from Jesus. Ain't that some shit? And I was like, man, I got to do a stream on this because nobody's seeing this. It's going over everybody's heads. And I don't understand why. Well, I actually do understand why. Because they can't dare talk about the Talmud and the small hats. They can't do it. They're not allowed to. Especially if you got a big channel, they will shut your ass down. But they shut me down so much that my channel stays small and shadow banned so I can talk about it because they don't care about me like that no more. But that's what it is, people. That's what it is. That's what this depicts. And the fact that he put it up and took it down is the same thing he did with this post. Put it up and took it down. Now, you take the hidden meaning from the Jesus meme, from the Jesus meme, right? Which is he's an enemy of the Zionists. And you couple it with this other post that he put up and he took down, right? Pointing out how corrupt Israel is. And then you couple it with Trump going against Israel with the Lebanon strikes, and then it all makes sense. It all comes together. It's all consistent. And none of it is surface level. Because everybody thinks this is a fake post because Trump took it down faster than it could spread. And it comes as a shock to Netanyahu that Trump declares their actions illegal, prohibited. So there's consistency there. And I love when Trump does goofy shit like this and everybody gets up in arms because I know there's a hidden meaning. And whenever he does shit like this is what keeps me in business on YouTube right here. This shit right here is what keeps me going. Because while everybody else misses the message and it goes over everybody's heads, because I've done the research and the studying for years that I've done, I'm able to see it. And now I can break it down and I can discuss it like nobody else can, because nobody else, I haven't seen a single soul on YouTube pointing out to their audience what this image actually means. Nobody. None of the conservatives, definitely not the liberals. Nobody. And what this is right here is also, it's not just a hidden message being sent to the patriots who get it, but it's also a test of conservatives' willpower. What do you mean by that, citizen man? Well, do pro-American conservative patriots have the guts to endure the goofy shit and see past this goofy shit and stick to the mission? Well, many of them don't, because many of them have revealed themselves to be spineless and weak-minded because they missed the message. It went over their heads, and now they're up in arms and all in their feelings and mad at Trump because he's being arrogant and he's making himself God and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, these are the same ones that'll tell you how evil the small hats are, that'll read you excerpts from the Talmud, and it'll still go over their heads. But it's not because they're unintelligent people. It's simply because they don't know the rules to the game. They think they know the rules to the game, but they don't. Your wrong think mentality is extremely dangerous to democracy, citizen man. Well, good. Good, because America's not a democracy. We're a republic. Democracy is mob rule. And if we were a true democracy with mob rule, this whole country would be California and New York right now. Literally, because they would decide who gets to run the country. Fuck that democracy shit. A republic. You see, the difference between a democracy and a republic is this. In a democracy, everybody as a whole, regardless of what side you fall on, if 51% say fuck you, it's fuck you. Right? In a republic, it's different. Every group of people with a difference of opinion has representation. So each group now has an equal voice. So if your group got 50 people that say fuck you, and my group got 10 people that say, nah, we're not with that shit, each group has one representative. So now it's 1 versus 1 rather than 50 versus 10. That's the difference between a republic and a democracy. So if it was a democracy and the 50 people says, you know what? Pedophilia is legal. We want to engage in pedophilia. Guess what? In a democracy, it will be so. In a republic, the 50 pedophiles, their representative says they want to legalize it. The 10 normal people, their one representative says they don't want to legalize it. Guess what? We're at a stalemate now because there's no freaking mob rule. There's adequate representation for every group, no matter how small. That's the difference. But again, we're living in a country where the majority of the population can't even name their governor, their senator, their mayor, their congressional representative. The majority of the people in the country, the vast majority, can't name the 5 levels of government that's ruling over them. So they're being ruled over by 5 different factions of the same government, and they can't name those factions. And for those of you that are watching this show that can't, let me name them for you so you'll walk away with something you can impress people with. Anytime you before you get into a political debate with anybody, you say, you know what? I need to test your political knowledge to see if you qualify to have this conversation. So let me just ask you one simple question. And if you can answer it, we can move forward with the conversation. If you can't answer it, you don't qualify to talk to me, at least not about this subject matter. And here's the question. What are the 5 levels of government that rule over you? If they can't name them, they don't qualify. So I'll name them for you so you guys will be equipped with it. Let me put some ammo in your magazine real quick. The 5 levels of government that rule over us is federal, state, county, city, and property management, homeowners associations, and or landlords. Those are the 5 levels of government. So if you own a home in an area where there's no homeowners association, you are the 5th level of government on your property because you are the lord of your land. If you rent from a landlord, your landlord is the 5th level of government that rules over you because he's the lord of that land, which is then in turn governed by the city, which is then in turn influenced by the county, which is then in turn governed by the state, which is then in turn influenced by the feds. If you live in a neighborhood with a homeowners association and you own your house, you're not the lord of that land. The homeowners association is the lord of that land. You're just a fool paying the mortgage and the HOA fees. You see? You see how that works? But most Americans don't even know that simple fact. But yet they want to engage in deep conversations about a very cryptic image with very deep symbolism and have the nerve to dare to give you their opinion on it when they don't even know what they don't even know what they're looking at. They think they know what they're looking at, but they have no idea what they're looking at. That's why I chose this thumbnail specifically, because I was throwing a hint. I was throwing out a clue for you guys. The title of the show is The Hidden Message in the Infamous Trump Meme, and then I put the Talmud in the background, because the Talmud is the key to decode the hidden message. If you know what the Talmud says about Jesus, and you go back and look at Trump depicting himself as Jesus, now you know the message that Trump is sending. It's fuck Israel. That's the message Trump is sending. But he can't come out and openly say it. So he says it through symbolism. You see how that works, guys? Are you guys following me? And this is not, and you know, a lot of people criticize me, right? And they say, oh, all Citizen Man does is defend Trump. Oh, he's a blind Trump supporter. He's brainwashed and this and that. No. Maybe I'm just fucking smarter than you because I don't live on the goddamn surface when it comes to Trump like you do. You ever thought of that? Because I seem to be pretty on point and pretty accurate with a lot of other shit. You know, I seem to be like, for example, and this is not to throw shots at Brother Sanchez, but he's one of those people that is critical of Trump with this Israel thing based on what's on the surface. Never once has he mentioned that Israel has infiltrated Iran, and this is why the attacks on Iran are being carried out. Never once did he mention that, but he'll tell you, oh, Trump is attacking Iran on behalf of Israel and this and that, because that's what the news is telling everybody. So we believe the fake news now. You see what I'm saying? And I love Brother Sanchez. I learned a lot from him, but he's one of those people that is scraping the surface just to disparage Trump. He's not being consistent. And again, this is not to throw shots at him. This is an intellectual challenge, is what it is. Because it's a lot of people in his audience that I get that from a lot. I mean, they're one of the few audiences that I do actually interact with on a regular basis, but I get that from them a lot. Oh, he's always defending Trump. Oh, he just supports Trump because he's a MAGA and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, maybe I just know more about your own political system than you do. And that's okay. I can teach you. You just have to humble yourself enough to admit that, you know what? I don't know shit about my own political system. I know it's corrupt as fuck. I know there's a lot of people in the system that aren't acting in my best interest. I know the basic rules within the system that have been created in the last century are not there to benefit me, but are there to oppress me. I know that. But what I don't know is who is working with or trying to work within this system to correct that. You see, they would make you believe that everybody in the government is bad. If you're in government, you're bad. And that's it. So along comes a president that sacrificed 75% of his own personal wealth, that sacrificed his good name and allowed himself to be dragged through the media, through the criminal courts, through the civil courts, had elections stolen from him, all types of shit. But because he's the president, he's bad. So we have to ignore all the facts just to keep saying he's bad because he became president. It's called infiltration. And this is a war of infiltration because it's a war against the world's greatest infiltrators, who are, in fact, the small hats. And how do you defeat them? You have to infiltrate their system and defeat them from within. How do you infiltrate their system? You win overwhelming support from the American people, so no amount of election fraud can keep you out of office. You get into office, you start moving the puzzle pieces around. You get rid of the heads of the deep state, but you leave their underground networks to operate. Why? So you can flush these people out one by one, group by group, until eventually there's a complete purge of the government. And now within the administration, we have individuals in high control and command positions who are loyal to America and no other nation. It can't be done from the outside. It has to be done from the inside, but you can't get on the inside unless you pretend to be one of them. That's like if, let's say, the Red Army and the Blue Army, the Green Army and the Yellow Army are at war with each other. And the Green Army decides, you know what? We want to find out what the Yellow Army is up to. So we have to infiltrate their camp. So somebody's got to sneak into their tents and find out what the orders are. Is that possible to do with their green uniform? No, they have to put on the yellow uniform. So when they get to the yellow camp, they don't stand out. They fit right in. They can infiltrate. So when Trump became president, he couldn't just come right out and say, I'm going to get rid of Israel. I'm going to get rid of the Rothschild banking system. I'm going to put us back on the gold standard. I'm going to free the world trade markets. I'm going to take the oil away from the corrupt nations that are participating in drug dealing and shit. I'm going to give the proceeds of the oil sales back to the people of those nations, and I'm going to set things right and this and that. He can't come in and say that. Kennedy came in and said all that type of shit, and look what happened to him. So Trump couldn't make that same mistake. So he had to do it covertly. He had to do it all while pretending to be down with everybody. The undercover cop can't bust the criminal organization by announcing himself as a cop, but he can bust them by pretending to be one of the criminals. So it's very easy for somebody on the outside looking in that knows nothing about the operation to mistake the undercover cop for a criminal, and it's perfectly understandable. In fact, that's the whole point. Because if the best of us can't tell the difference between the cop and the criminal, that means the cop is not only doing his job, but doing it well. That's what that means. But eventually what happens is members of that criminal organization start going to jail because evidence starts popping up to condemn them. But where's this evidence coming from? Oh, it's coming from the infiltrator. And here's the thing about it, right? With this Trump-Israel thing, I found myself at another crossroads, the same crossroad I found myself in back in January of 2021 when the election was stolen from Trump, right? And that crossroad was after the Biden inauguration, I had a decision to make. Am I going to go the way of what I'm seeing, which is this inauguration is totally fake? That Joe Biden character that's posing as president is not the real Joe Biden? Or am I going to go along with what the mainstream is saying and all the other big channels are saying that, they stole the election, but Biden is the president now and President Biden and this and that. And I said, you know what? I can't ignore what I'm seeing and go with what's popular and what's easy. I'm going to go with what I'm seeing. And that was the direction that I went, and it turned out to be a damn good decision because it blew my channel up within a matter of days. And with this Trump, Israel, Iran thing, I kind of see the same thing happening where should I go the route of the big channels and, join in with the naysayers and say, oh, Trump's owned by Israel and this and that? Or do I do what I do best, which is look beneath the surface, read between the lines, and try to see things for what they actually are rather than accepting what they're being presented as. And I made my decision. And then, boom, Trump drops the post about Israel being corrupt, takes it down. Does the post about no more attacks will be made by Israel, then boom, Trump says Israel's attacks are prohibited. Then he drops the Jesus meme. Then I decode the Jesus meme with the Talmud. Turns out Trump's working against Israel, just like I said, just like I've been saying. So I love when he does the goofy shit, because the goofy shit keeps me busy. And this is what sets me apart from most other YouTubers. And this is what made my channel in the past, before they took it down, so successful. Because I was one of the few people with the guts to get on here and point out the obvious and show what we were being shown, but most people were overlooking. So here I am doing it again. And I'm pretty damn good at it. And I'm not good at it because I'm any smarter than you guys or anybody else that may come across this stream. I'm just good at it because I've been doing it too long. That's all that means. But now, part of what I teach is how you guys can apply your own discernment and equip you with the prerequisite knowledge of what we're looking for. So that way you can look for it and find it for yourself. Kelly says, do you think Trump dropped the civilization wipeout message, or Mark Levine? I think Trump dropped that message, but the civilization that he was referring to was not the civilization that everybody thought he was referring to. I believe the civilization he was referring to are these Zionists, because that's who he's working against. And all this fake news about civilians in Iran getting killed in Trump's bombings and all that shit, it's bullshit. Remember, this is the same fake news that when the Israeli sleeper cells decided to turn up and kill protesters in Iran, they told us that it was the Iranian government, and they lied. Then the Iranian government comes out, debunks the lie, and proves that there's Israeli bullets lodged in the bodies of the dead protesters. So do we really trust the media? This is the same media that told us that was it Hezbollah? Yeah, Hezbollah attacked Israel on October 7th, and during the attack, they attacked a hospital and killed babies and all this dumb shit. Then it turns out that it was Israel that did it to a hospital in Palestine. But we believe the fake news because they said something bad about Trump, though, because we hate Trump, right? See how goofy that shit is? It's goofy shit. It's a goofy way of thinking. It's intellectually dishonest and inconsistent, is what it is. And I'm glad that Trump's finally coming out and publicly showing his hand and showing America where he really stands. Because this whole Trump is owned by Israel shit was really starting to get old, and I was getting sick of hearing it. And I was like, Trump, you got to come out and show these motherfuckers something, man. Because they're really falling for it. And they're falling hard. And they're dragging their audiences down with them. And I would love to have a debate with Bro Sanchez about this, but it's going to be very difficult because whenever you start making a point that overrides his point, he shuts you down. And I don't like that, because if I'm wrong about something and he corrects me about it, I'll accept his correction and say, you know what? I never thought of that. You made a good point. But my past experiences with him has been him over talking me, shutting me down, not allowing me to make my point, or him bringing 1,000 no-name motherfuckers onto the panel so they can overtalk me and shut me down. The same thing CNN does. They'll bring a conservative on, act like they're going to give the conservative a chance to speak, and as soon as they start making sense, other panelists start jumping in and cutting the person off, over-talking them, and the host says nothing. And it's almost it's a tactic that they use. And I've seen it done on other platforms too. Brother Sanchez is not the only one that's done that. And I don't know if it's something that just comes naturally because people get offended, or if it's an actual strategy to shut down the other side. But I'm right. I've been right. And I hope that Trump becomes more blatant with his messaging and people finally start to wake up and realize what's been happening the whole time. But I think at this point, even if Trump came out and explained what was happening in detail, people will still believe, they'll still hang on to the whole Trump is owned by Israel thing. They'll still hang on to it because they've been saying it so loudly for so long that it's become almost impossible for their egos to let go and admit that they were wrong. They can't admit that they were wrong now. Now they got to double down. But I will say this about Brother Sanchez. He has had his moments of intellectual honesty, and I've seen it. He's done it with me, and I've seen him do it with other people, but it usually only happens when it's one-on-one. When there's other people on the panel, it doesn't happen. But when it's one-on-one, it's a little different. And when we had a talk one time, I can't remember what we were talking about. He was saying how he was undefeated in the debate. And I was like, no, you might be you're not 1,000-0, you're 1,001. And he was like, what debate did I lose? I said, the open borders debate you had with me back in 2019. We debated about the open borders when Trump was trying to build the wall. You were saying building the wall was a bad idea. And now here we are 5-6 years later, and we see that building the wall would have been a good idea. Keeping the borders shut down and not letting these people in would have been a good idea. And he was like, you know what? You're right. So he did give me my credit for that. So I can't say he always does it, but the over talking and the shutting down of my points has happened more times than not. So it's kind of made me see that, they're not really interested in hearing an opposing opinion, at least not the other panelists. And I can't have that conversation with him with other people on the panel because I don't have enough faith in their intelligence to actually have a fair conversation. But I do have faith in Brother Sanchez's intelligence to have that conversation. But it's going to be very difficult for him, and I don't think it's ever going to happen because his audience is so bought into the Trump bad narrative that if he were to reverse course and admit what's really real, that Trump ain't bad, then he'll probably lose half his audience. And I wouldn't want to be the one to put him in that position. So I got to let him have that, It's at the end of the day, it's a matter of opinion, and as wrong and misguided as some opinions might be, we just have to accept them. And I'm cool with that. And I'm not mad at him. I have no animosity. This ain't no beef or nothing. This is just an intellectual disagreement where I am obviously right and he is obviously wrong. And that's all I'm saying when it comes to this point. And we agree on a lot more than we disagree on, honestly. Because when it comes to anything outside of politics, I can agree with him. But when it comes to the Trump thing, I'll never give in because I know better. I've been following Trump and I've been watching and listening to everything that he says and does since before he became president. And I was watching him closely because I was waiting for him to betray America. Now, think about this, right? If Trump really is down with Israel and he really is betraying America, think about how much sense that doesn't make. The man ruined his name, lost 75% of his personal wealth, been dragged through the courts, Damn near had his family destroyed, had a bunch of his friends put in jail, a bunch of his supporters, the January 6th protesters, put in jail. And after all those sacrifices made, and he's still standing, now he's going to jump ship? That makes no sense. If he was going to jump ship, he would have did it the minute they started applying pressure. But he never jumped ship. That's why they kept applying pressure. So why would he jump ship now? That's like trying to climb a mountain, and then as soon as you get within 10 feet of the summit to where you could damn near reach out and touch it, you give up and say, "Oh, I'll never make it," and then you turn around and walk back down the mountain. Does that make any sense? Does that make any psychological sense at all? It doesn't. That will be the equivalent of Trump turning against America now. Makes no sense. Because that means everything that he's been through and sacrificed would have been in vain just to let them win again. He's not going to do that. Trump doesn't let anybody win. He's too arrogant. He does have an arrogant, narcissistic streak about him. I've admitted that. I acknowledge that. But that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Because that's what's kept him in the game so long. That's what's kept him standing in the face of all this overwhelming opposition. And that's what's kept him in the fight. His tenacity. And it's to be admired. Why, thank you, Shane. Oh, shit. Shout out to my brother, Shu One over on Rumble. Shu just said something deep. Shu said, it's all a Q operation. Nasara Jasara incoming today is the 107th day of the year. And you know what's funny, Shu One? It's funny that I do this stream today on the 107th day of the year because in the Talmud, one of the Talmudic verses that disparages Jesus is 107. Let me see if I can find that. Look, 17. Jesus appears in Tractate Avodah Zarah 17, which details a conversation between the rabbi. This is the story about the healing and the rabbi not wanting his nephew to be healed in Jesus' name. Here we go. Right here in the middle. This legend found in the Talmud's tractate Sanhedrin 107b claims that Jesus practiced witchcraft. Ain't that something? Excuse me. So there's more correlations. The 107, the 17, the healing, the Jesus image. So Trump's definitely sending a message with this meme for sure. And the message that he's sending is the exact message that I've been telling you guys this whole time, that Trump is working against Israel. He's undermining Israel, but he can't do it openly and he can't do it publicly because that jeopardizes the mission and that puts innocent American civilian lives at risk. So, how do you defeat the world's most powerful banking cartel and control mechanism without causing so much blowback that the people in your country end up getting themselves hurt? How do you do it? You pretend to be a friend of your enemy as you work to undermine that enemy. You pretend to be a friend of your enemy as you destroy that enemy's control network around the world, in Europe, and especially in Iran, because Iran is their home base for launching terrorist attacks against other nations of the world. because Israel can't do it and put their flag on it. So they'll do it and they'll put Iran's flag on it. So Iran gets blamed for being the world's #1 sponsor of terrorism when it's Iran under the control of Zionist puppets. AED. What's that spelled? Aid 7238 says it's easier to fool someone than convince them they've been fooled. Yes, exactly. Oh, and speaking of Bro Sanchez, you guys notice how he stole my marketing strategy of setting the goal and having a certain number of supporters sending donations. You guys peep that? I like that he does that though. That because that lets me know that one, he watches my show, and two, it also lets me know that my marketing strategy actually works if given a big enough platform. So shout out to bro for efficiently utilizing effectively utilizing that strategy. I'm glad. I love to see him winning because I remember before he would have 600-700 people in his show and he wouldn't do too much marketing. And at the end of the show, he'd be like, "Yo, I made $2, y'all." And that shit used to break my heart. I'm like, man, that is insulting. Y'all are insulting this man. Y'all need to support this man. But now that he's implementing the strategy, it seems to be working. So shout out to bro for that. I knew the strategy could work. It just can't work for me because my audience ain't big enough. I just wanted to throw that in there because I ain't no hater. I love to see people win, man. Because we especially as the American people, we've been losing for so damn long that it brings me joy to see a fellow American win. Whether we agree or disagree, if you're winning, I'm happy for you. But speaking of marketing, not a single soul hit the Cash App tonight. I don't know what's happening. I think y'all just enjoying the show too much and forgot that your boy needs some support. So support the show. I miss my good brother Lee 14224. He used to hit me with a faithful 5 every show. But I guess I've been gone so long I lost him. I know what I'll do. I'm going to hit him on the PayPal and let him know I'm back. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send him a couple dollars on the PayPal so he'll get it. And I'll send these 2 links to these 2 shows and let him know I'm back. But anyway, guys, I think I've basically covered everything that I wanted to cover. The hidden message within the meme has been revealed. So you guys know what it is now. Now you have more confirmation that what I've been sharing with you guys, that Trump is working against Israel and working with the Iranians, is actually true. Like, think about it. Trump's doing all this bombing and tough talk on Iran, but for some reason, Russia won't get involved. Why is that? Because it's all for play. Shane, you said you hit my Venmo? Because I didn't get nothing in Venmo, man. I don't know if you hit the wrong Venmo or somebody duplicated my shit. But I got nothing in Venmo. And I just checked the Cash App. I checked the Jaden Ben Cash App and I checked the Citizen Man Cash App, and they're both still at 0. But then again, it's Friday night and I've been gone too long. I guess I got to come back and put in a couple more shows and a few more hours of work and build up my numbers again. And I don't mind. I don't mind at all because when I started out on YouTube, I was doing more work for free. So I can't even be mad. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to everybody for being here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. That's a blessing in itself because I could have been here talking to nobody. You know what I'm saying? So if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have a show. Kelly says, do a few collabs. I've been collabing with B Miles. I got to do another one with him, but I'm waiting till I'm waiting until my studio's done again and it's all set back up and I got my mic and my camera and all that shit, so we could do it, do it for real. Because I got to get back on that. We were doing pretty good with that, and his audience was really loving it. Now that his audience has grown, I can come back and make a bigger splash. And he's been asking me too. He's been begging me to come back. And I told him I would, and I am. So be on the lookout for that. I'm definitely going to do some early promotions on that. Right? Every collab show we do, I'm going to set it up like a week in advance. So you guys will know what date and when to tune in, what date and time. But anyway, guys, so now that we've decoded the infamous Trump Jesus meme, oh shit, something happened on the Cash App just now. I don't know what happened. Oh man, shout out to brother Terrence for the Cash App. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you. Our Lone Ranger tonight. Appreciate you, bro. Shane, you said Venmo, but I don't know what if you actually hit the Venmo, if you're asking me for my Venmo or what, man. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I'm getting tired. Oh shit, brother Lee, you there? Oh man, my brother Lee over on Rumble. He says check your PayPal, bro. Oh shit. Yeah, PayPal does not notify me at all. Okay. Shout out to Roberta. Says 2 coffees. Thank you, Roberta, for the Venmo. So we did get something on the Venmo. Roberta, you're not Shane, are you? I sure hope not. Or Shane, you're using Roberta's uh Venmo, I would assume. Brother Lee says check my PayPal. Okay, let me check because I don't have an email from the PayPal. So I'm just gonna go right in because sometimes they email me, sometimes they don't. So I'm just gonna jump on in, log in, and check it. Maybe I don't get the PayPal notifications because I don't use the app. Lee says was watching on YouTube. Lee, you sent me something on PayPal, bro? Because there's nothing there, man. There's nothing there. My PayPal is at 0. All right. Appreciate that, Shane. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate that Venmo, bro. Guess you weren't lying. It just took a while. Let me see. The PayPal. All right, so we got the Cash App. We got the Venmo. But Lee, I don't see the PayPal, bro. I hope you didn't say nothing too crazy and they froze our accounts again. Remember that shit? That was crazy. I couldn't believe they did that. Yeah, I don't see nothing from you, Lee. I'll probably have to check it later. Maybe it's just taking a while to come through because it's been so long. I don't know. It says I have one new message. Let me view my message. Yeah. There's nothing in my PayPal. He says, sorry, must have bailed from PayPal too quick. We'll resend later, promise. Oh, okay. So it's in the process of sending and you closed out the app, so it stopped it. Yeah, that happens. That happens. It ain't like Zelle where as soon as you press send, it sends instantly. You actually got to sit there and wait for it to say it has been sent. But that's cool, man. That's cool. Whenever you can, Lee. Whenever you can. Don't hurt your head about it. If you know, if it comes in, then by the next show, I'll definitely give you a shout out, man. So, don't hurt your head about it. No big deal. No big deal at all. But anyway, I appreciate you guys being here tonight. That was amazing. After such a long break, what really made me get back on it? One, I started losing subscribers. That was one. But the second thing was I was actually starting to like being a regular person and not being a YouTuber a little too much. But then I realized, like, as I watch other YouTubers, I would like sit there and I would watch them on their shows, and there'd be like a little bit of not envy. Well, I guess you can call it that. Because I would be thinking, like, man, I remember when I used to do that. I miss doing that. I'm gonna do that again. So I got back on it. So I don't know. I don't know how I would describe that. I don't know what you would call that. But yeah. So I had to come back. And I know you guys miss me, and I didn't want to lose too much of my audience. You know what I'm saying? Because there's too much going on. There's too much going on, and there's too much deception happening, and too many people that are misinforming the public because they don't get the message. And that's what sets me apart from all these other conservative YouTubers. That's what sets me apart from them. I see the message. I get the message. Lee says, glad you're back, though. Yeah, I'm glad to be back, man. I'm glad to be back. But again, that's what sets my channel apart from other channels. And that's what made my past channels, so successful that YouTube had to cheat me and take my channels away. That's why they did it. Because they want everybody to go by what's on the surface, because what's on the surface supports their narrative. They can't have people on here encouraging their audiences to look beneath the surface and read between the lines, because God forbid we give Trump any type of credibility. He's bad, remember? And everything he does is bad. I can't have nobody on here telling us that it's good what he's doing. Can't have that. Hell no. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to give you guys the truth. I'm here to give you guys the real spiel. I'm here to give you guys at the very least, maybe not all the answers, but at least show you where to look to find the answers. Because I'd rather you find the answers for yourself than me just sit here and spoon feed them to you. And I don't know if you noticed what I did even with this show, where I told you what the message was behind the meme, but I also gave you the keys to decode the message. So now, whenever you see other messages like this, now you know how to go about decoding it. Because we're currently in the phase of the Israel takedown, the Zionist takedown. So every coded message that you get is going to pertain to the Zionists one way or another. So Trump put out the meme of himself as Jesus. How does this tie into the Zionists? Oh, right. They hate Jesus. They viewed him as an enemy of theirs. Oh, that's why Trump posted himself like that. Ha ha. You know what I'm saying? You see how simple that was? Kelly says, we appreciate your take. It matters. Well, thank you, Kelly. And I appreciate you guys taking an interest in it and seeing how much and recognizing how much it matters, because it's important. It's important. Even after the election got stolen, my shows and my breakdowns is what kept a lot of people, a lot of patriots from giving up hope. They were like, the country's fucking cooked. It's over. Trump's never going to get back in. If they can cheat and get away with it this easily, there's no hope for us. And I was like, no, that's not what's happening. This is what's happening. Stay in the game, because we're going to win this. And guess what? We're winning. Doesn't look like it right now, but we are. You notice no skyscrapers have collapsed on the occupants inside yet. No nuclear bombs have went off yet. World War III hasn't kicked off yet. Nobody had to run to their bomb shelters yet, because we're winning. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for being here. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Thank you guys who donated to the show. Thank you guys who would like to donate to the show but weren't able to. I wish you guys much financial success in the future, because the more money you make is the more you can donate. That's just my thing, right? Can't let you win without me winning. I need a piece of that. I'm like the mafia. You're not winning on my turf without giving me a piece. But anyway, make sure you guys go follow me over on Rumble. If you haven't already, get over there, create a Rumble account. It's fast, it's free. All you need is an email address and a screen name, and you got yourself a Rumble account at no cost. And that not having an account doesn't stop you from accessing the videos. So you can go watch the videos without an account. But with a Rumble account, you can actually give me a follow, which is like the equivalent of a subscription on YouTube, a subscribe on YouTube. You can hit the like button, and you can comment on the videos, and all those interactions and all that. What's the word? Shit. What's the word when people comment on your videos, hit the like button and all that shit? It's not interaction. There's another word for it, and it slips my mind. I'm having a brain fart. But anyway, all those actions and interactions actually help boost the channel up, push me further into the algorithm, and gets more viewers to come subscribe. So do that, help grow the channel. Over here on YouTube, it's the same thing. Like button, share button. If there's a hype button, hype it, comment, all of that shit, and it will grow the channel. You will see the effects of it. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. So always keep that in mind. Also, last but not least, shout out to you guys for supporting the show. I appreciate that. And anybody else that supports the show after the show goes off, I will definitely shout you out on the next one. Engagement. That's the word. Thank you, Terrence. Engagement. I will shout you out on the next show. So don't feel bad. Don't feel left out. And I definitely don't want you to feel unheard, because I see you and I hear you. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for being here. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.